Huh? What?
Like and subscribe.
At first, everything felt familiar and ordinary, even in a place like this. A frozen biome where survival already feels heavier than usual. We had settled on a small hill. During the first moments of the day, we focused on simple tasks. Growing trees with bone meal, watching them rise unnaturally fast from the frozen ground, chopping them down one by one, stacking logs near the entrance. It was repetitive work, but it kept our minds calm. The snow around us stayed untouched, except for our footprints. But then everything shifted quietly. A sound reached us, distant at first, low and mechanical, not loud enough to understand, but heavy enough to feel. We stopped, listening, unsure if it was real or just the environment playing tricks on us. Instinct took over before logic. We backed into the earth shelter, closing ourselves inside. The windows were small, but enough to look outside. We scanned the snowy hills, the fog, the empty slopes. Slowly, we stepped back outside. The cold hit again. Everything looked unchanged. Quiet, too quiet. Time moved forward without warning, and then we saw it far through the fog, barely visible against the white landscape. A massive shape moving slowly, deliberately, the first infected sky. It didn't rush, it didn't react to us at all. It just crossed the land like it belonged there. Its scale alone made it impossible to mistake for anything else. The body moved like a creature, but the head, the cockpit of an aircraft, reflected a dull, frozen light. It passed without stopping, and we stood still, unsure whether being noticed would matter at all. Before we could even process what we had seen, something else caught our attention closer to home. A car standing near our shelter, completely out of place, old, abandoned, silent. Its presence felt wrong, but it distracted us from what we had just witnessed. Later, hunger pushed us farther from home. We headed out to gather pigs on the nearby outskirts, staying alert, checking the fog constantly. That was when we stumbled upon something unsettling. Part of a creature, half buried in the snow, the cockpit helmet of an infected sky, inactive, cold. It raised questions we couldn't answer. Curiosity won again. We dug beneath it and uncovered a hidden chamber. a small underground room filled with valuables, treasure untouched by the world above. For a brief moment it felt like luck, like a reward for exploration. The ground above us shifted, and the air felt heavier. A second infected sky emerged nearby, massive and slow, moving past the area as if it had always planned to be there. We froze, hiding, watching through narrow gaps. This one felt different. Its presence clear, its form easier to see, and even through the fog, tell it wasn't the same as the first. Its colors stood apart, confirming what we had started to fear. These creatures were not alone, and they were not identical. Waited, barely breathing, until it moved on, disappearing into the distance without ever acknowledging us. Once it was gone, we carefully made our way back toward the shelter, retracing our steps, expecting destruction, but finding the place untouched, still standing, as if nothing had ever approached it. That sense of false security pushed us into action. We decided to improve our defenses, building snow walls, reinforcing the area, shaping the shelter into something stronger, more hidden, working side by side, trying to stay warm, trying to stay distracted, cooking pork over a small fire, fixing weak spots, preparing for a night we knew would not be peaceful. The sun dropped lower, the light faded, and even though we hadn't finished everything, we stopped, watching the cold settle back in, the silence returning thicker than before, as if the land itself was waiting. Night came quietly, but it didn't bring rest. Instead, it brought curiosity when the sound returned that no longer scared us the same way. By then, fear had mixed with questions. What were they doing here? Why were they moving like this? Why not attacking? Driven by that need to understand, we stepped outside again and carefully made our way down the hill toward the water. The fog still covered most of the land, but through it we noticed movement. Not one but two infected sky figures standing far ahead, different from each other. Clearly visible now, they weren't hunting, weren't chasing anything. They were simply there, near something else. As we got closer, we noticed a structure, a monument rising from the ground, unnatural, unfamiliar, something that hadn't been there before. The infected sky seemed drawn to it rather than to us. As we approached further, their details became clearer. One blue, one red, massive bodies barely moving. Slow enough that we realized escape wouldn't be difficult if we stayed calm. We stopped and watched, the realization slowly settling. Earlier we had seen a third one. We reacted quickly, building a rough wall from nearby blocks, hoping to break line of sight, hoping they would lose interest if we disappeared. But it didn't work. The feeling that they were aware of us remained. Heavy and uncomfortable, with no clear reason to stay, we retreated back toward our shelter. Choosing distance over answers, once inside we tried to calm down, lighting a fire to fight the cold creeping into our bodies. The warmth helped, but sleep came slowly. And just as it finally felt possible, the sound returned, louder, closer, confirming what we already suspected. The third infected sky had arrived. Through the window we saw movement. Little shapes, two of them standing still, facing directly toward our shelter. Unmoving, watching, panic set in instantly. We hid behind the snow walls we had built earlier, pressing ourselves against anything that might conceal us. Then another presence appeared from the side, completing the circle, three of them, surrounding the area without ever stepping closer. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. No sound, no movement, just silence so deep it felt unnatural. The infected sky were gone, leaving behind only questions and the faint outline of strange monuments scattered across the land, each made of an unknown material. It was something that resembled precious gems. None of it made sense, and that made it more dangerous than anything else. After waiting and seeing no sign of the creatures returning, we made a decision that felt reckless even as we made it. We left the shelter and headed toward the nearest monument, the very spot where the infected sky had stood earlier. It hadn't existed before. And now it rose from the ground as if placed intentionally. The closer we got, the more unnatural it felt. Tall, narrow, stretching upward like a lightning rod. One of us climbed it despite the risk, ascending nearly 30 blocks into the air. And then something unexpected happened. Diamonds, real diamonds, were thrown down from the top. Ordinary, valuable, powerful. We collected them knowing full well that greed might be another mistake, but also knowing that diamond armor could be the difference in a world like this. Once it was done, we moved quickly, looting the remaining monuments the same way, always watching the fog, always expecting movement. But the infected sky never returned, not that night at least.